Hey guys, welcome back to the shed. Saturday morning. I've actually had a request. One of the YouTube viewers has asked me to demonstrate how I clean my guns on an everyday basis. This won't be a full strip and rebuild. I don't do many strip and rebuilds because I look after the guns in the first place. It's extremely rare that I need to get involved with changing baffle seals, any type of adjusters, guides, anything like that. They're normally pretty good for a long time. I'll swing the camera around in two different times. One to see you using the machine. This is my machine, it's one I've had for quite a few years. And I've also got a second machine out there that I use for water-based cleaning. I normally, on both guns, whether I've been using water-based or solvent-based, I will always clean the gun in water first if it's water-based, but I always flush them with solvent after. The problems that you will have inside a spray gun is corrosion. Corrosion is caused by water, so we only sort of pick up water by, hopefully none comes down the airline, but that's a source of water through the airline. Obviously when you're cleaning the guns out, if you leave them flushed in water, there's little passages inside the gun that water can get trapped. If it stays in there and naturally dries out, it can start to cause tarnish to start with, and then 6 months down the line, by the time it's done that quite a few times, it will actually start to corrode inside your gun. If you flush the gun with solvent, or even better still acetone, after you've finished using the guns, it takes the moisture out the gun. An exception I will say there, if you use a gun wash solvent, yes, it's a solvent, but if you've ever left gun wash in a tin for a while, you'll find once the solvents have evaporated off, there's always like a water or moisture in the bottom. So a cheap gun wash solvent will contain some water, so you have to be careful of that. So you can either opt for a blast of air to try and get rid of the moisture after, or the acetone. Acetone doesn't contain any water, or doesn't leave any residue water inside the gun, so that's okay. But that's something you need to be aware of. Cheap gun wash solvents do contain water. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'll say, shop safety, for want of a different expression that I heard on the internet a long time ago. We're going to be using compressed air, we're going to be using solvents, there's going to be a lot of splashing possibly going around, or an odd squirt because we've missed a line putting the gun in the machine or something. So it ought to have the correct safety equipment. I'm going to demonstrate here something now, but it's poor. I'm going to say solvent proof gloves, but I've actually run out of solvent proof gloves. These vinyl gloves are not solvent proof, so don't think you're going to get protection from them, but I'll use these as an example. You do need solvent proof guns if you're cleaning with solvent. Also, eye protection. The last thing you want is a splash from solvent. It stings like hell. I have done it. I have been silly enough to clean a gun without goggles on. Type of goggles. These British Kite Mart spec glasses, great lenses, comfy, side protection. Would you use these for cleaning solvent? I wouldn't. Even when they're fitted up to the face, there's lots of areas that solvent can get through. So these are okay if you're doing some drilling or filing or anything like that, grinding. Great, they'll work to a degree. When we're talking about stopping solvents, you need a solvent-proof, full to the face, like a ski mask. That's the type of eye protection we should be using. Normally, in a body shop, everything is cluttered about. Your path could be obstructed with trestles, bumpers, you name it, it'll be in the bloody way. If you do splash yourself with solvent and it does get past the goggles, which it can, even though you're protecting yourself as best you can, you won't make the path correctly from your wash area to your first aid area. So the best thing to do is keep some eye wash right exactly within reach of the eye wash, of the wash tank. If you do splash something, immediately dump what you're doing, drop it, pick up that, squirt it in the face, saturate your eyes, saturate your face. You've only got one set of eyes, and once they're buggered, they're buggered. Eye wash right by the machine. If you're working for somebody and their eye wash flush isn't within reach of the machine, yeah, tell them it needs to be there, because it does sting and it will absolutely destroy your eyes quickly. You have not got 45 seconds, a minute to walk to an eye wash spot right by the side of the eye wash. Dump this, put your head over your wash tank, squirt it in your eye, squirt it, saturate it, flood it. Do what you can, instantly you get it in there. 99% recovery, you'll be fine. With that out the way, why do we wash our guns? Obviously to stop contamination from one colour to the next, from one product to the next, whatever. These wash tanks are used to clean a gun, yeah? So the only thing that should be in this wash tank is clean solvent, and as clean as you can get it. This machine adopts two tanks, a clean flushing tank through a very fine spray, and a saturation nozzle for getting rid of the most. So, I'm using this gun today, it's already clean, but I haven't got anything dirty at the moment. When you've painted, you've got lots of paint, lacquers, everything in this pot. The first thing you do is, from a separate source of your gun wash or your water, flush that pot out and dispose of that in your waste paint area. Do not flush the gun with paint, clear, lacquers, anything in this gun into the tank, because already now you've contaminated this machine. It will not clean the gun. It will look clean, but if you touch it, it will feel sticky, and that's paint that's building up on the outside of the gun, and that's important. So tip out your waste paint to start with, anything that you've got left. Hopefully you can judge your paint amounts, and you won't have much in there anyway, because paint's expensive. You don't want to waste paint for the sake of it. Tip out what you can by pulling the trigger, let some air in through your fluid tip. That pot will then empty. Once that's empty, put 100 ml or so of clean solvent again, put the top on, and just flush the gun around. Key the trigger, and you'll see a single, like 1.5mm jet of solvent coming out the gun. Put that into your waste paint container. Yeah. Once that starts to flush somewhere near clean, then you're ready to clean the gun. This machine, as I say, isn't there to get paint out your gun, it's to clean your gun after you've disposed of your paint, and that's a key thing. First thing, you can take your pot off there. Leave your pot open, pull your filter out, put that in the bottom of your tank. Whilst you're cleaning the rest of the gun, solvent will splash on this, and just start the process of softening up any paint that you've got around the threads of your pot, in the lids, in the vent hole of your pot. It will just soften it, so just leave it loose in the bottom of your gun, in the bottom of your tank, and that will start to look after itself. Now, with the gun itself, and I've said this a lot of time, where is the paint in your gun? What are you trying to clean out? And it's very simple. You have got paint through a tiny hole there, 5 or 6mm bore hole, 10mm holes on some of them. The paint is only located in the gun through that short little passage. It's about 2 inches long, about 50mm long. That's the only place that there's paint in this gun. So why would we need to put solvent everywhere else? We don't do it. First thing to do is flush the gun with the fluid tip on. And what that does is, because we've now got our needle still in the gun, our fluid tip still in the gun, we're not going to flush solvents coming back through the packing where the needle is here. With a needle, and the needle adjustment is there. Whatever paint is in there, let's get rid of it and don't bring it back into the packing. At the moment, most of that packing is protected. So with this machine, I'll start a little bit earlier. We don't need to clean an air pressure gauge. So the first thing we do is remove that. This is my dislike with digital gauges that's built into the gun. We accidentally splash solvent on them and they don't last very long. So I'm a big fan of the analog gauge. Right, back to where I was. So your gun now, all I've taken off is the air cap. I turn the machine on, which takes away the fumes, so you might hear this. Turn the gun, turn the camera around a little bit. I've got 2 foot controls. I press the one for big rinse. Which is that. I now key the trigger and put that directly with the top bits to the gun. And as you can see, I've got a very, very strong blast of solvent coming straight through where the paint is. I leave it doing that until that runs clear. Once that runs clear, you can stop. Turn the fume extraction off just so it's a little bit easier to hear. Now, with the correct spanner and the correct spanner only, I would advise no open-ended spanners, no adjustable spanners, anything like that. The spanner, the proper tool that came with the gun, if you put it on the gun, little nick, and as you see that's not very tight, it's only a pinch. Remove the fluid tip. Now up here I've got a stainless steel tin with the gauze in the bottom. All your small components, we don't want to lose them down the plug hole, so all your small components load into that tray. So at this point we can remove springs, caps. I won't put that in the wet at the moment because I've already put some grease on this already, so I'll leave that up there, but that would normally go in my tray. Key the trigger, withdraw the needle. Be careful with this needle, it's a precision part, so don't just throw it in the bottom of the tin. You might bend it, put a mark in it, scratch it, whatever. So lie that flat in that tin. Now we can go back to the gun and we'll give another flash. So I'll do that again. As you can see now, there's a little bit of fluid and bubbling coming up with the packing. That's okay with clean solder, it's not okay with paint solder. Right, that's flushed. We've also spilt solvent on our needle and fluid tip that's waiting in our tray down the bottom, so that starts the softening process if there's anything on there. The rest of the gun here now, if you end up with a spray gun in your hand that is absolutely plastered with overspray, you've got primers, lacquers, colour that you're painting, whatever, all over your gun, and I've seen people using a gun like this, it's saturated everywhere. You've just painted a car with a gun set wrong. The thing I try and avoid, we're trying to get the paint on the car. If you set up the spray gun wrong, if you haven't done your wall of air test to know what distance to spray from your panel, you get what's called blowback. And basically half the paint goes, hits your panel, blows back from the panel, saturates you, your arms, your mask, all over the gun. You've set it up wrong. You should be able to paint, I would say virtually all over respray with extremely minimum overspray and paint on your gun. It shouldn't be there. So if you've set your gun right, what's left now on this gun? We've cleaned the fluid passage, that's clean, that's tidy. What's left on this gun? There will be a little bit of stickiness, don't get me wrong, there will be some on there, you can't avoid it. So this now, you just brush off. And once again, we can use the big side just to saturate the gun and to use the brush. So, wash off the gun, just wet it. Yes, I know I've not got solvent with gloves on. Use the brush to clean, just loosely clean the outside of the gun, behind the trigger, anywhere that you think the paint might stay. Once you're in brush mode, we can wet up a brush, we can clean through the fluid passage on both ends, a light clean, final rinse. Now, some of that fluid will be contaminated and slightly sticky. I hope you heard that. That fluid will be slightly sticky. I've actually replaced the drum on this one, so it's quite clean at the moment. So now we will have a stickiness, a residue over this gun, so we need to clean the residue. So with this gun, this machine, I'll turn the fan back on. I have a second nozzle that just puts out a very fine spray of absolutely pure clean solvent. So once again, this isn't contaminated with any waste that recycles through the machine. It's a very fine spray. Now that's done, that's cleaned off, that won't be sticky to the surface. What to do now is with the paper towel, wipe that solvent off the outside, and then we compress there. You see the solvent still coming from the gun? Right, and that's it. The actual gun part now is done. There's no stickiness, there's no tackiness on the gun. That's finished, that's clean. We still have the air cap to deal with. There will be overspray on the front of the air cap and in the wind port, so we need to sort that out. Once again, back in the tank. Brush the back of the air cap, the front, lightly with the brush. Leave that to drain. Back to our fluid tip. Put the fluid tip over the flush, running through nicely. We have got the alternative of putting a brush in it to clean the inside. Slightly brush off the outside.